Yo, I'm Aaron and welcome to this guitar lesson for Daughters by John Mayer. We're going to start by learning all of the chords and how they apply to the different sections of the song, and then we're going to learn all of the lead parts. Also, everything will be played slowly, at the end fully tabbed. Let's get zoomed in. We're going to start with the strumming pattern, which runs throughout the whole song. I'll teach you how to play it slowly. Okay, so our time signature is 6/8, so the song's going to feel like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and over the top of that your strum directions will be down, up, 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 down, up. And if we were to play the chords underneath, down, up, 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 down, up. Once you can play that strumming pattern at a slow speed, then you can start working it up to the speed of the song. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, etc, etc. Let's move on to the juicy chords. As usual, I'll be using chord diagrams in this video, so if you're not sure how to read chord diagrams, I'll stick a link in the description to a video that will tell you how to do that. So our intro and verses open with the chord B minor 7, 11. Careful that you don't play the A string here. Then we move on to this lovely variation of an E minor 7 chord, an open string variation. Note the fact that the high E, the B and the low E are all open strings. Then in bar 3 we move to the A11 chord. You may want to bring the thumb over to stop the low E from interfering with that as you're strumming through. Then we go to this lovely variation of a D major chord, where we've got the first, the third and the octave notes of that chord, and all the other strings are muted. Then when we get to the chorus, which is at 1 minute 9 seconds, and also the solo, because the solo uses the same chords as the chorus, we have a B minor 7, 11 chord again. But this time the change takes place on beat 3 instead of taking place in the next bar. So 2 chords per bar this time, making the changes twice as fast as the intro and the verses, and that changes to an E7 chord. So counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's your timing of the changes. In the next bar of the chorus we have an A11 chord again, same as before, and then in the next bar that variation of a D chord again, same as before. And that sequence goes around 4 times in total for the chorus and the solo, the piano solo at the end. Then we have the bridge at 2 minutes 30, and the bridge opens with a D9 chord, and we use a thumb variation for that. Then we go down to our C9 chord, 2 frets lower. In each of those chords, be careful that you're not playing the A or the high E strings. And then we go to another different variation of a D major chord here, where the low E and the high E are not used, but you could also, instead of just barring with the pinky here, you could use the 3 fingers as well. Then we go to a D major 7 with an A in the bass. We can also call that an A6 chord. And the next chord in that bar is an A major, where we just lift the pinky off and go to the first finger to give us an A major triad on the D, G and B strings. The only string that isn't played in this chord is the low E, so you may want to mute that with the thumb as well. Then we go to our B minor 7, 11 chord. And then we get down to our E minor 7 chord at the lower part of the neck. Boys will be strong. And then the next bar, boys soldier on, which is a D sus2 with an F sharp in the bass. And then the next bar, boys will be gone, which is a G minor chord with the thumb variation there. And then a bar with the first finger. And then we go to an A7 chord around the 5th fret. And that is all the chords of the song. I hope you're ready, because we're now going to move on to the super tasty lead guitar parts. So the first of our lead parts is, of course, the intro. And we open up with just a B note on the D string. But we want to make sure that we're raking towards that B note through the low E and through the A. So you should be hearing that quite clearly before you hit the first note. Then we're into the next bar, and we've got part of a G major chord here, and that sits beautifully over the E minor 7. Then in the next bar, we're going to put our first finger on the 6th of the G, then our third finger goes to the 8th of the B. Then we bring our first finger up to the 7th of the D string. And then we're back to the 8th of the B with the same finger. 7th of the D. And then the second finger on the 8th of the B for the next bar. And then in bar 5, we've got 9 on the D string again with the third finger. The note B. Then we do a hammer on from 6 to 7 on the G string. And then bring our pinky down onto the 9th of the D for the next bar. And we hammer 6 to 7 on the G again. And then I like to bring my third finger up to the 9th of the G now, because then I can bring my third finger up again to bend the 11th fret of the G, F sharp, up to the 12th fret of the G, the note G. And then the 8th bar is just 11 on the G with the third finger. And maybe a little bit of vibrato there as well. Then, of course, we go into the verse, which we've already learned the chords for. So we're up to the chorus tag, and the chorus tag comes in at 1-3-1, and it's the part that goes. And it sits behind a lead part, so we're going to learn this part first, the rhythm part. So we have the third finger on the 9th of the D string, and the first finger on the 7th of the G string. Forming a 2-note B minor chord, a dyad. And where it changes, the 5th note along, the 9 moves on to the 9th of the A instead of being on the 9th of the D, and that's just moving the third finger between the two strings, okay? And you just want to be careful that you're muting all of the other notes, because that's really going to, if all the strings are open, it would sound like this. And of course that sounds very messy, so we want to make sure that if we have to bring the thumb over, make sure everything is muted accordingly. In terms of strum directions, I would go down, 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 up, down, 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 down. And just make sure that everything is staccato, very short. Okay. And then in the next bar, rhythmic idea is exactly the same, but we have our first finger on the 5th of the D and our pinky on the 7th of the G string. And where we have that change, again, it is slightly further on in the bar, but we go from the 7th of the A, and that's where the third finger comes to the A string, and we take the first finger off, and then the first finger comes back down to give us the 5-7, a G5 chord, and then the third finger comes back up to the A string, and then we're on to the next bar. Again, the rhythmic pattern's identical, and actually the start of the bar is identical too, and that's just using the third finger again, but this time you keep it on the D string instead of the A string. Then in the last part, we've got this kind of ascending sequence at the end of the bar. Okay, so it's this D shape that we've learned before in the chord section. And at the end, we strum that D shape once. Then we go up to 7-5-7, which is an E minor chord. Third finger on the 7th of the A, first finger on the 5th of the D, pinky on the 7th of the G. That gives us the E minor 7 chord. And then what happens next is the first finger comes back down to the 4th of the D, but we just hit those two strings only. Again, muting all the other strings out, very important when you're playing this bit. Over the top of that, there's a lead part, and it's the part that starts. Okay, so we start with our third finger on the 9th of the D. And then at the end of the bar, we bring our pinky to the 10th of the A. And then our third finger to the 9th of the D again. And then in the next bar, the first note is a 7 on the G string. And then the third finger to the 10th of the D. And then the first finger to the 6th of the G. And we're bending that 6th up a half step to the 7th. But then we kind of stop it dead, release the bend without making a sound, and then pluck the 6th of the G. So it should sound like... Careful not to overbend it there. And then we get to the end of the third bar along of the lead part chorus tag. We're on the 7th of the D string with the first finger, third finger 9th of the G, first finger 7th of the G. And again, might want to put a bit of vibrato on that. The next lead part is at 2 minutes 54, and it is the piano lead. And it goes like this. And we're starting with our third finger on the 9th of the high E to the pinky on the 10th. And then we do that in reverse on the B string, 10-9. And then it's 9-10 on the high E again. And then we use the second and first finger on the 8th and 7th frets of the B respectively. And then in the last bar of that sequence, we have the 9th of the high E. And then it jumps to the 10th of the high E. And then the 7th of the B. And that covers us for all of the lead parts of Daughters. Hope that tutorial was helpful. Feel free to get in touch via the comments section. Remember to hit subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss any future videos, and I'll catch you in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching. Bye.